Good afternoon. I'm Ashok Bala. Polish and Allied aircraft were deployed in a preventive operation in Poland's airspace today because of a threat of drone strikes in neighboring areas of Ukraine. The airport in the eastern Polish city of Lublin was closed. Meantime, President Trump is offering a potential solution to ending what he calls the deadly and ridiculous war in Ukraine.
President Donald Trump says on his social media site that he believes the Russian-Ukraine war would end if all NATO countries stopped buying oil from Russia and placed tariffs on China of 50% to 100% for its purchases of Russian petroleum. Trump says that NATO's commitment to winning the war, quote, has been far less than 100%, end quote, and that the purchase of Russian oil by some members of the alliance is shocking. NATO member Turkey has been the third largest buyer of Russian oil since 2023, according to the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. Hungary and Slovakia also buy oil from Russia. I'm Donna Woodher.
Wins News Time, 3:31. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
Well, if you're going to the George Washington Bridge using Route 80, you might have a tough go of it right now. If you're traveling in the eastbound direction, right around Route 19 in Patterson, and then westbound as well, there's a crash there. You want to avoid that by using 46. 46 does get slow, but mostly over by Fort Lee heading eastbound, approaching the George Washington Bridge. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Well, you're going to need about 35 minutes in at the George, about 30 on the outbound side. Inbound Lincoln and Holland are around 25. The outbound Lincoln and outbound Holland have improved. At least you have that going for you. West Side Highway over the east side of Manhattan, which is very slow from the southbound side of the Harlem River Drive, passing the Tri-Road, heading all the way down to 23rd Street, heading down to the Brooklyn Bridge. You're going to need a lot of extra time, but the northbound FDR is in decent shape. Brooklyn Bridge, Brooklyn bound, not so fast, and that's what's causing that extra delay on the southbound FDR approaching the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, in Brooklyn, the inbound Gowanus is nonstop action from Fort Hamilton Parkway all the way up to the Prospect and up to the Brooklyn Bridge. No thanks. Eastbound belt tightening from Flatbush Avenue to Cross Bay Boulevard. In Queens, the usual suspect, east and west, LIE between Woodhaven Boulevard and the Clearview round trip. You'll need that extra time. Andre Farrow, 1010 Wings at 92.3 FM.
Now the AccuWeather forecast with meteorologist Matt Benz.
It's still pretty dry here across much of the tri-state, though the radar is starting to show some indications of a stray shower way north, up in the Hudson Valley, up into northern Orange County. This activity likely to stay well north of the city here for the rest of this afternoon and through this evening. And for tonight, some clouds, a low 64, 50s again for most suburbs. Tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sun, warm. There could be a stray afternoon or evening shower, especially north of the city with a high of 81. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy, low 66. And for Monday and Tuesday, pleasant sunshine and some clouds, a high of 82. Monday, high Tuesday near 80. Right now, 75 degrees in Central Park with a relative humidity at 54%. Repeating, the current temperature is 75, falling down to 64 tonight in Midtown. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Matt Benz on New York Weather Station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
People from across the country who share the name Ryan are gathering at a bar in Union Square for a meetup this afternoon, hoping to break the record for the largest same-name gathering in history. This idea started over 2 years ago in Brooklyn and somehow has gotten bigger ever since. The community makes it clear this is only for Ryans, not Bryans. So if your name starts with a B, you'll have to start your own meetup. As Israel continues to attack Gaza, relatives of hostages are slamming the prime minister.
Israel has been intensifying its attacks in Gaza, destroying several high-rise buildings that Israeli officials say had surveillance equipment that Hamas was using. Israel is now urging Palestinians to evacuate. Relatives of Israeli hostages held by Hamas are demanding a deal to release their loved ones. Zahiro Shahar Moore, whose uncle is being held hostage, says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is jeopardizing the release of the hostages with the Gaza attacks.
The hostages are fighting to survive in underground tunnels, and Netanyahu already tried to bomb them there.
Aid workers say the number of people leaving Gaza has increased in recent weeks, but hundreds of thousands remain struggling under conditions of famine. I'm Mike Hinton.
A powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck this morning near the east coast of Russia's Kamchatka region. No immediate reports of injuries or major damage. Tsunami warnings were issued to coastal areas in Japan, but later dropped. Over a dozen athletes at 6 college basketball programs are being investigated for violating sports betting rules. The programs involved: Arizona State, Eastern Michigan, Temple, New Orleans, North Carolina, AT&T, and Mississippi Valley State. The NCAA noted that the schools and current coaching staffs are not alleged to have been involved in the violations. The investigation also includes professional players in other sports.
2 Cleveland Guardians pitchers are on paid leave as both MLB and Ohio State regulators probe allegations of micro-betting activity. Neither player, they commented on that. And the NBA is launching an inquiry of free agent Malik Beasley, who they say has been linked to improper gambling on NBA games and prop bets. Now, Beasley's attorney says that he is cooperating fully with the investigation.
Correspondent Ike Ijachi.
Any man who wins the heart of an Owens woman is bound to end up 6 feet under.
You've been waiting for this sequel since 1998. Next in 1010 Wins Entertainment. 1010 Wins Entertainment.
Tooth of wolf and morning dew. Something old and something new.
Nicole Kidman says Practical Magic 2 has wrapped production, a sequel fans have been waiting for decades. She thanked the cast and crew for all their magic on Instagram. The highly anticipated sequel, set to hit theaters on September 18th of next year. Kidman and original co-star Sandra Bullock will once again play sisters Sally and Gillian Owens, who descend from a storied lineage of witches. The original Practical Magic was not a box office hit. Its budget was $75 million. It grossed only $68.3 at the box office, but the film became a cult hit on home video. Anime rules the box office this weekend. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle earned $33 million yesterday, the biggest domestic opening day ever for an anime film. It's playing in both subtitled and dubbed versions.
Entertainment on 1010 Wins.
The station you know, the people you trust.
The News Watch never stops. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Mostly sunny, 75 degrees. It's 3:40. Good afternoon. I'm Ashok Bala. Here's what's happening. In Elmhurst, Queens, a teenage girl killed in a hit and run early this morning.
Bad for the family, you know.
Cardi B held a pop-up event at a bodega in Washington Heights, Missouri, the latest state to take up redistricting. Massive turnout for a far-right rally in London today. And we'll hear the story of a little gecko who ended up in another country after crawling into a suitcase. Looks like the Mets alumni game wrapping up. The Mets will host the Rangers at 4:10. At the same time, the Yanks take on the Red Sox at Fenway. AccuWeather says a stray shower is possible through early this evening in the Hudson Valley. Cloudy tonight, 64. 50s again for some suburbs. Tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sun. Warm with a stray afternoon or evening shower, most likely north of the city with a high of 81 for Sunday. Wins News Time, 3:41. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
Looks like we have big delays in Nassau County on Long Island heading on the eastbound side of the Northern State Parkway. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. It's right by that IU Willits Road area, right before you get to the split of the Northern State and the Meadowbrook. Looks like a stall knocking out one lane. Westbound LIE is slow by Glen Cove Road, and you have delays on the eastbound Southern between Eagle Avenue and the Seaford Oyster Bay. Heading across the Whitestone, Throgsneck, and Triborough bridges, those all have some moderate volume heading towards Queens, but Bronxbound you're okay. If you're going to use the Triborough Bridge Manhattan span heading towards the Harlem River Drive, that's a little slow. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. 40 minutes deep at the George Washington Bridge, about 35 on the outbound side, 40 minutes in Lincoln and Holland. Even the Pulaski Skyway is very slow heading into Jersey City. Go with the Newark Bay extension and avoid that entire slowdown. Still working on a crash westbound Route 80 over by Route 19 over in Patterson. You have delays round trip slowing you down. On Staten Island, look out for delays on the Goethals Bridge, Staten Island bound, and right around Victory Boulevard. You are tapping the brakes on the Staten Island Expressway. Andre Farrow, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
A teenager is dead after she was struck by a hit-and-run driver in Queens early this morning.
The bloody body of 16-year-old Johanny Gomez Alvarez laid on the corner of Benham Street for hours as medical examiners and NYPD investigated. But folks in the area witnessed the tragedy in passing, like Sergio. It happened just after 4 a.m. when a 38-year-old man in a large SUV mowed Johanny and a 32-year-old woman down after a dispute. Police say he tried to get away, but but hit a parked car just around the corner. That's where he was arrested. Now, it's not clear if this was a DUI, but Mario says it wouldn't matter. Crime doesn't stop on Roosevelt Avenue.
I would like to move, but for now I gotta stay for work.
Amanda Alexander, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Elmhurst, Queens.
Cardi B held a pop-up event at a bodega in Washington Heights this afternoon. She invited fans on Instagram to show up at Cloud Deli on West 159th Street. Her second studio album, Am I the Drama, is scheduled to be released this Friday. Wins News Time 3:44. A Manhattan school board has reversed a controversial resolution targeting transgender athletes in school sports. The Community Education Council for District 2, which covers parts of Manhattan, voted last year to urge limits on trans girls in school athletes. Councilmember Aaron Carr tells 1010 wins.
There would be students who were trans coming to speak before the council, and they're crying, and there are certain council members who just wouldn't even look at them. They're just looking at their phones, and I think that that's so disrespectful and antithetical to our purpose of being on the council.
The move sparked protests and led to a shakeup in the council's membership. This week, the new board officially rescinded the resolution. Education officials say the city remains committed to supporting all students, regardless of gender identity. Local colleges got a really bad report card.
The annual college free speech rankings has schools around us failed. Almost each and every one of them got an F. Reasons for it?
You see high levels of self-censorship, and you see very little faith in university administrations that they will protect the free speech rights of students.
Ryan Weiss is with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.
The very strong free speech protections that have made the United States kind of the leader of free speech in the world, those things are all at risk.
He says to cut through the polarization we see today, it should start with championing free speech on campus to promote debate. Kevin Rincon, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Add another state to take up redistricting ahead of the midterm elections.
The Missouri Senate wrapped up the state legislature's work on a new congressional districts map and sent it to Governor Mike Kehoe, who's expected to sign it into law. The new map dilutes Democratic strength in Kansas City to add a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives for the GOP and help the party retain its shaky majority. Missouri Democrats immediately announced a referendum petition that, if successful, could force a statewide vote on the new map.
Correspondent Michael Toscano. Democrats need to gain 3 seats in next year's midterm elections to win control of the House. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook referred to a condominium she purchased in June of 2021 as a vacation home in a loan estimate. That characterization could undermine claims by the Trump administration that she committed mortgage fraud. The president has sought to fire Cook for cause, alleging that she claimed both the condo and another property as her primary residence simultaneously. Cook is suing the Trump administration to block her firing, and she secured an injunction this week that allows her to remain as a Fed governor. The administration's appealing the ruling and asked for an emergency ruling by Monday, just before the Fed is set to meet and decide whether to reduce its key interest rate. An enormous turnout in London today for a far-right Unite the Kingdom rally.
More than 100,000 people joined in a Unite the Kingdom rally organized by far-right leader Tommy Robinson in London. Elon Musk addressed the crowd by video link, calling for an end to the current government, a dissolution of parliament, and a new vote. In the end, 9 people were arrested.
Catherine Arms reporting. For the first time in history, a woman's been named the Prime Minister of Nepal.
Sushila Karki was sworn in yesterday as interim Prime Minister. She had previously served as the country's only female Chief Justice. Earlier this week, the Prime Minister resigned as nationwide protests over a social media ban turned deadly. Nepal's president dissolved parliament and set elections for March.
Correspondent Dana Jacobson. The ban was lifted on Monday. The Feast of San Gennaro underway in Little Italy. The grand procession happened earlier. It is the event's 99th year with tons of great food and live music. This year's Grand Marshal, actor, comedian, radio talk show host Joe Piscopo. The festival also includes a panel with Sylvester Stallone and the cast of The Tulsa King. A small gecko traveled from Portugal to Guernsey after getting inside a traveler's suitcase. The traveler found the gecko while unpacking. The lizard, which has been named Rosie, is now in quarantine since it's not native to Guernsey. An animal organization is now looking for a home for Rosie. Industry City in Brooklyn is hosting the second annual Latin Food Fest. You can eat good for a few more hours and all day again tomorrow. We'll tell you about that, but first, Wins News Time 3:51. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
And do yourself a favor if you're in Brooklyn, avoid the inbound Gowanus. I mean, man, it's terrible if you're heading from Fort Hamilton Parkway up to the Brooklyn Bridge nonstop, and then you do have delays across the Brooklyn Bridge round trip, and really no relief in sight on the east or westbound side of the BQE between the Kosciuszko, I would say the LIE, all the way towards Flushing Avenue round trip. And I'm going home that way a little later on, so hopefully it'll clear up by the time I get out of here. Inbound George Washington Bridge, here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Looking at 40 minutes inbound, about 35 on the outbound side. The western spur, eastern spur, New Jersey, heading up towards 46. North of Route 3, you do have lots of volume there. Inbound Lincoln, inbound Holland, 40 minutes. Better news on Route 80 over in Patterson. That crash did clear. The outbound side of the Lincoln Tunnel looks better than the outbound Holland. You'll save a little bit of time. Go with the west side of Manhattan over the east side because the southbound FDR delays are terrible from the Triborough all the way down towards 23rd Street. Andre Farrow, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
Hey, it's Scott Shannon. Check out my True Oldies channel in the car at 92.3 FM HD3. And at home on your smart speaker, just say, Alexa, play Scott Shannon's True Oldies on Odyssey.
Powered by River Spring Living. And an AccuWeather forecast now. We're going to get that with meteorologist Matt Benz.
And looking dry here for the city through this evening, though a couple of showers trying to sneak their way through the Hudson Valley, mainly across northern Orange and northern Putnam County on northward. That's where they should stay here into this evening. Otherwise, the clouds here for tonight, low 64, 50s again for many suburbs. Tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sunshine. Not a bad day, but watch for a stray afternoon or evening shower, most likely north of the city with a high of 81. Monday and Tuesday looking pleasant. Plenty of sunshine, a high of 82 Monday, near 80 on Tuesday. Right now, 75 degrees in Central Park with a relative humidity of 54%. Repeating, the current temperature is 75, falling down to 64 tonight in Midtown. I'm meteorologist Matt Benz on New York Weather Station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
Industry City is hosting the second annual Latin Food Fest. 20 nations are being represented at this event, with more than 70 Hispanic-owned small businesses. Marco Shalma is founder and owner of Latin Food Fest. He tells 1010 Wins.
We want to celebrate culture. We want to celebrate diversity. We want to introduce great cuisines, and we also want to show unity between the different nations.
The event runs today and tomorrow from noon to 7. Lots of great food and live performances, art installations. So many things to do at Industry City, really on any weekend. The 4th annual Jamaica 5K Walk and Run happens at York College in a couple weeks. The event is hosted by the Greater Jamaica Development Corporation, is meant to shine a positive light on the community while stressing the importance of healthy living. Mitchell Sternbach is the organization's director of resource development. He tells 1010 Wins.
Every year, the people from the community come out and say, we love having positive events like this. Sometimes, the only news you hear about Jamaica is on the negative side. So we love to come out and have a great event like this, which really brings the community together.
You can register at gjdc.org. This year's co-grand marshals are Queens Library President Dennis Walcott and VP of Philanthropy at Medgar Evers College, Earl Simmons. New Haven breaks the Guinness World Record for the largest pizza party. Mayor Justin Ellicker's office confirmed they had over 4,500 attendees, passing the last record of about 3,300 in Tulsa, Oklahoma 2 years ago.
Richard Kuroga and his fellow Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are just a few of the thousands of people in New Haven Friday evening trying to be a part of history, breaking the Guinness World Record for the largest pizza party.
That's exciting. Why not? Connecticut being in the world record. Why not?
Each person has 2 tasks. Eat at least 2 pieces of pizza and don't leave the party early.
Owen Kingsley with that report. It is mostly sunny, 75. We're going down to 64 in Midtown. Now Bloomberg Money Watch.
It almost feels like a trend. CEOs behaving badly.
Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
Remember that Coldplay kiss cam video that cost Astronomer's CEO his job? He wasn't the only one. Nestle fired its CEO over an undisclosed office romance. The head of Kohl's quit after the board there found out he'd steered millions of dollars in business to a vendor he was having an affair with. It might all make you wonder.
Do they just still think they're going to get away with it? Do they think they're untouchable?
I'm Nathan Hager, Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
WINS FM in HD1 New York. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 Wins than from any other radio station in the nation. Sarah Milano's at the editor's desk. I'm Asho Kabbalah.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon, 75 degrees at 4 o'clock. I'm Donna Vaughn, and here's what's happening. It appears to have started with an argument. So say police investigating the hit-and-run death of a teenager in Queens this morning. They have arrested a suspect. A fatal shooting last night in Queens. A 21-year-old woman killed as she stood in a doorway in East Elmhurst. The Manhattan School Board that asked the city to ban trans girl athletes last year has voted to rescind that resolution and voted yes on a new one that supports transgender students. A far-right rally in London today organized by an anti-immigration activist after the death of political commentator Charlie Kirk. And pop music at the Vatican today for Grace for the World. The star-studded concert featuring acts like Jelly Roll and K-pop sensation Bam Bam, and just in time for Pope Leo's birthday. Well, baseball this afternoon, the Yankees in Boston, the Mets home against the Rangers. First pitch for both 4:10. AccuWeather says high 78 today, some sunshine, and a little warmer tomorrow, otherwise pretty much like today. Wins News Time 4:01. Let's get you where you need to go now with Andre Ferro.
We have another trouble spot in New Jersey on Route 80. This is westbound over by exit 62, right by the Garden State Parkway. One right lane is knocked out with a crash with injuries. Again, westbound on Route 80. Not a good deal. Now, inbound George Washington Bridge. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. 35 minutes in, 40 minutes out. 35 minutes in at the inbound Lincoln and Holland. The Pulaski Skyway inbound over in Jersey City remains a very tough task. Go with the Newark Bay extension to avoid that delay. In Brooklyn, round trip on the Brooklyn Bridge. It is bumper to bumper. So are the delays east and west on the BQE from the Kosciuszko and the LIE all the way to Flushing Avenue and the inbound Gowanus. Don't go on us from 39th Street up to the Brooklyn Bridge. You're going to need a lot of time. Eastbound Belt Parkway, tapping the brakes from Flatbush Avenue to Cross Bay Boulevard in Brooklyn. Now we have some issues on Long Island. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. It's a crash eastbound by IU Willits Road on the Northern State Parkway, and the LIE is picking up extra volume right around Glen Cove Road, round trip because of it. East and west Southern State Parkway slow between the Meadowbrook and Peninsula Boulevard. Andre Ferro, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
The NYPD has identified the teenage girl struck and killed in a hit-and-run in Queens overnight on an Elmhurst street. Investigators say this was not an accident.
Police say a 38-year-old man driving a large SUV purposefully ran into 16-year-old Johanny Gomez Alvarez and a 32-year-old woman after a dispute. He fled the scene, then hit a parked car just around the corner on Benham Street. That's when police arrested him. Now here on Roosevelt Avenue, blood still splattered on the corner. Residents and commuters alike watching medical examiners investigate. Sergio here saw the unimaginable.
When I thought I was there, I saw it by, like, she got cut in half.
Now, police say the suspect and victims have no relationship. Folks in the area say they're devastated.
That's so sad. I can't even imagine this. That's tragic.
Amanda Alexander, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM on Roosevelt Avenue.
And the woman that survived the hit and run is in stable condition now. The name of the alleged driver has not yet been released by police. Two holdups, but just one robber. Police are asking for tips from the public to track down the guy who robbed two cell phone stores at gunpoint this week, both in Queens. The first happened last Sunday at a Boost Mobile location on Sutphin Boulevard in Jamaica. The second on Wednesday at another Boost Mobile store on Liberty Avenue in Richmond Hill. Investigators say the gunman made off with about $7,500 total in cash and phones from the two holdups, but no one was hurt in either case. They released security camera footage of the suspect and asked that you contact Crime Stoppers if he looks familiar. Meanwhile, police say the convicted felon accused of killing a couple in their Queens home this week has confessed to the violent crime. Jamel McGriff was arraigned Thursday on multiple counts of murder, robbery, and arson in the deaths of 76-year-old Frank Alton and his wife Maureen, who was 77. The 42-year-old parolee was reportedly captured on surveillance video, forcing his way into the victim's home on 254th Street around 10 a.m. Monday and leaving with 2 duffel bags around 3 in the afternoon. McGriff allegedly used one victim's credit card at Macy's Herald Square while using his own loyalty reward card. Police say he also sold the victim's cell phones at a Bronx store using his real name. According to investigators, McGriff has a long record of violent robberies and was wanted in 2 store holdups in Manhattan this summer. The widow of conservative political commentator Charlie Kirk speaking out publicly for the first time last night since her husband was gunned down at an event at a Utah college on Wednesday. Erica Kirk promised that the political movement her spouse built will not die.
You should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country.
While President Trump has sought to blame Kirk's death on left-wing extremism, several recent cases of political violence have targeted Democrats as well.
Now the White House says the president will soon announce a plan to go after left-wing extremism. But so far, the president has only listed out attacks against Republican leaders while making no mention of violence against Democrats, including the killing of Minnesota state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the arson attack at Governor Josh Shapiro's home in Pennsylvania earlier this year.
Correspondent Selena Wong, another victim, the husband of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, attacked in their home by a man looking for his wife. There's still no full picture of the political leanings of the 22-year-old Utah man accused of shooting Charlie Kirk. Tyler James Robinson was registered to vote but wasn't with a political party, and he'd reportedly spoken with relatives recently about Kirk and whether the conservative activist was spreading hate. So, Mets fans of a certain age, how'd you like to see Mike Piazza suit up again? He's one of dozens of Mets heroes of the past who took part in the team's Alumni Classic this afternoon at Citi Field. The old-timers grouped into 2 teams, Shea Stadium versus Citi Field. Mets VP of Alumni Relations Jay Horowitz telling 1010 Wins.
Baseball's all about memories and good times. And we have a great history with the Mets, maybe not as back far as other teams, but we've had some great moments and great players. And we just feel good about bringing these guys back and, you get another round of applause by the fans.
Joining Piazza at today's event was Mets legends like Jose Reyes and Pedro Martinez. Well, the hotel in Costa Rica where the teenage son of former Yankees outfielder Brett Gardner died earlier this year has been raided again by authorities. A local prosecutor says they were looking to collect additional evidence in the death of 14-year-old Miller Gardner to determine if it might have been a case of negligent homicide. The teenager died in his sleep during a family vacation back in March. That's according to a statement from the Yankees shortly after the tragedy. The official autopsy blames carbon monoxide poisoning. A growing gambling scandal in college basketball and possibly a game-fixing scandal as well. 13 former basketball players from 6 different schools are now under investigation by the NCAA for allegedly betting on their own games and against their own teams.
Authorities say the students shared insider information with outside bettors, even trying to manipulate game outcomes. Now, the schools involved are Eastern Michigan, Temple, Arizona State, New Orleans, North Carolina A&T, and Mississippi Valley State. The NCAA and the universities emphasize that neither current school staff or coaching personnel are implicated.
Correspondent Ike Igiacci. Arizona State is the only power conference school connected to the probe at the moment. The same school was involved in a men's basketball point-shaving scandal back in the mid-1990s. Now, earlier this week, the NCAA permanently revoked the playing eligibility of 3 basketball players of Fresno State and San Jose State for gambling on their own games. President Trump says he's ready to hit Russia with new sanctions over its war on Ukraine. But there is a but. The president posting on social media that he won't impose new sanctions until all NATO countries stop buying Russian oil. President Trump has been under pressure to step up sanctions on Russia after his recent effort to negotiate peace with Vladimir Putin apparently fell flat. Russia, meanwhile, has only stepped up its attacks on Ukraine. Poland scrambling aircraft again today because of a Russian drone threat along its border with Ukraine. That's just days after Poland shot down dozens of Russian drones that entered its airspace. Poland is a member of NATO. 75 degrees right now, partly sunny in Midtown. We'll get traffic in the full AccuWeather forecast next. Well, just ahead here on 1010 Wins.
I'm gonna have to quit drinking coffee. And I love coffee.
The Trump tariffs could soon hit you hard in the coffee cup. First, though, Wins News Time 411. Let's get you where you need to go with Andre Farrow.
Let's go to Long Island. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. We see a mess on the eastbound side of the Northern State Parkway with a stall right by IU Willits Road heading eastbound before you get to the split of the Northern State and the Meadowbrook Parkway. So you have that to deal with, and you have the LIE delays eastbound right around Shelter Rock Road and westbound by Glen Cove Road. And if you're using the Southern State Parkway, here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. We see a mess.